This is TWiT.
Why would you buy an Intel Mac at this point?
There's a couple really important. Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, Lory,
well, Rene's got much better things to say about it. Sure. But there's two things. One, somebody who wants Intel, they're not afraid, or they're afraid to be a first, a first adopter to the Apple Silicon Mac. They don't want Apple Silicon. They want Intel. They know Intel. They're familiar with Intel. So that's one reason. And the most important reason, and Rene will probably say this, is if you need a computer, you need a computer now. It doesn't matter what chip is in it. So that's, the other important reason.
Yeah. I was going to say different stuff.
Go ahead. That's different stuff. Go ahead.
No, she's absolutely right. I was going to also say that if you depend on Boot Camp or running Intel version of Windows, you're going to need this. And also, if you depend on some of the high-end 3D rendering stuff, you've barely got Mac Intel support for that. And who knows if or when they'll bring that stuff over to the ARM Macs. And you can use the Rosetta for it. But if you're really doing high-end,
good point.
Stuff like Brianna Wu would be doing,
right,
it won't be tolerable for you.
Unity 5, you're going to want this. Or whatever it is, yeah.
Unity's porting, but Real hasn't said they are. So, it's really and Maya's going to port, but it's this like what's called photo brush or paint, like some of the stuff Alex uses that he has to use on a PC. That's the reason.
In fact, last chance, kids, get your Intel Mac while you can.
Yeah, seriously.
That's more like it. Yeah.
Also like this, if this is a good year if you do need a Mac and you're worried about getting Intel, this would be a okay year, because within the 5-year time frame of the maximum usage of a brand new Mac, I don't think there's going to be a huge difference between. Certainly, if you wait until next year, like Rene said through his proxy, Lory, that is exactly what I was going to say. That if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting because a new thing's going to come up, you're never going to have it, and then in the next year you're going to lose all the benefits of having a machine that is 1 year old as opposed to the 8-year-old Mac that you're trying to replace it with. So it's going to be a false economy.
I think I've mentioned this before, but there's also the sort of average consumer that you want to think about too. There are lots and lots of people that don't give a flying F about what chip is in their computer. They just want a computer. They're not going to care whether it's Apple Silicon or Intel. So this is the latest, most updated version of an iMac for those people, for people who aren't waiting for the new big changes. They just need a new computer. They don't even know what Intel versus ARM versus Apple Silicon even is.
In 8 months, when the new iMac with fins comes out, they're going to feel pretty left behind. Those
Not
people, you're right,
necessarily.
they're not looking at the inside, but I promise you, the Apple Silicon Macs will look very different and will have features that will make you want them, independent of the silicon.
But there's going to be a lot of people who they don't care about that kind of stuff. There's so many people in this world who just need X to work, and they're want
buying PCs.
Whatever they can buy.
They're not buying Macs. Those are people who are still buying Windows for reasons no one understands.
You're
Paul Thoreau
right.
understands those reasons, sir.
No, even Paul.
You're right
wishes he
in the
didn't have to
partial
buy
on that. But with, like Apple, the iPhone became so popular that people are now buying whatever iPhone they can afford. It has nothing to do with whether it's the most recent one. They're just buying the iPhone they can afford because it got so popular.
Yeah,
so
but that's an iPhone.
In a way,
nobody's buying
right,
desktop
so I
computers.
think in a way Apple is trying to position itself as being the company where if you just need a computer, we've got one for you. We've got the most recent one for you with the most advanced features.
No, if you just need a computer, you're going to buy a $500 Windows machine. No. Anybody, first of all, nobody's buying desktop computers. The people who are buying desktop computers are businesses who are buying Windows. They're not buying Macs. And professionals who know better. I have to think there's a very scant market for this.
Students, especially right now.
Students, maybe they're going back to school, but even there, aren't they buying laptops? Why would you buy a desktop?
Yeah, front of house was huge for iMacs.
Not anymore.
Nobody's in the front of house anymore.
Yeah. No,
I think this was a marketing positioning for Apple, that they're trying to capitalize on the fact that they just launched a new iMac, so all these students are going back to school at home.
Yeah, that's who this is
will
for.
have a desktop.
Yeah.
All these children, all these parents with children, and they've got to get them up to speed, with whatever's there. It's not cheap, but it's the latest iMac. So I think, they're saying we've got a computer right now.
It's also the last iMac. It's going to feel so out of date next year. I can absolutely promise you, having bought an Apple Cube on the very last day, you could buy an Apple Cube. I know what these people are headed for. They may not know it. There is another group. Actually, there's the hedge funds, the people who think Apple Silicon is going to be a massive flop, who may say, yeah, last chance to get Mac OS on Intel, the last great Mac. There is a small but finite chance that'll happen too, right? This is the last good Mac.
I don't think that's going to happen, but
I don't either.
When you talk about the uncertainty, you're also talking about what if you need you like the iMac form factor, you need a new one. How much are you willing to bet that Apple is definitely going to have one this year? Like the common wisdom with air quotes around it is that we'll have an iPhone event and then a desktop event maybe a month after that. And there's no guarantee that they're going to say, these new the first generation Apple Silicon Macs are going to be are available for order today. They might say, here it is. We're going to be announcing a ship date when we're ready to ship it. Or they'll announce an Apple Silicon Mac that is not the Mac that you want. For me, I mean, in my circumstance, the only Apple Mac Silicon Mac that I'm interested in is a Mac Mini, because the iMac doesn't work for me. The Mac Pro is almost certainly going to be priced out of my reasonability range, and I could be waiting upwards of a year for a Mac Mini version of Apple Silicon. And people, every time when I tweeted about this, Apple's shipping a Apple Silicon Mac Mini right now to developers. No, they're not. They're shipping a developer like test bed that people can borrow for a few months, but they have to send back to Apple. There's no promise that that's going to actually ship anytime this year. So the question is, just like Lory was saying, how long do you want to wait, hoping that not knowing exactly when Apple's going to ship you the machine that you actually want? So for a lot of people, if you need an iMac, and if you've been holding off for 8 years, and remember that one of the advantages and the boat anchors of being an Apple user is that you're not forced to due to incompetence of hardware to upgrade before the thing just absolutely collapses like the Bluesmobile at the end of the movie. This things can keep going and going and going and going, and you wind up with an 8-year-old machine that suddenly can't stream 4K video the way you want to, and now is the time you absolutely need to upgrade, as opposed to maybe I can upgrade, maybe I can't. So there's still a lot of uncertainties. I think it's going to be a success, but you don't know when the machine that you want, the one that you need, is going to be shipping with Apple Silicon.
And it sounds like notebooks this fall anyway, not
13-inch MacBook Pro. I honestly, I'm telling you folks, just listen to Leo. He's done this before. I've been around the block. If you can wait till next year, I would strongly suggest wait till next year.
Yeah.
If you can't wait, if you're a student going off, you're a freshman in college and you don't have anything to use, okay. But boy, I'd wait.
Would I be thrown out of this club if I said I think that there's going to be another Intel Mac before they stop making them entirely?
Really? No, you wouldn't be thrown out, but you'd surprise me. Why?
I don't know why, but I just have a feeling we're going to see another new Intel.
What would it be? A
16-inch MacBook Pro, 10th generation.
There we go.
That would be. I would like that.
That would actually make sense because it'll be a year before the Apple Silicon 16-inch, probably, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it just. I would thought we were getting it earlier. Like I didn't go all out on the last one because I was hoping we'd get it earlier. We didn't.
These are incremental upgrades, though, to existing machines. And a 16-inch MacBook Pro would be an incremental upgrade to be 10th generation Intel. Honestly, I am so happy with my 2 or 3-year-old iMac Pro. I have no pressure to upgrade that.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't need to. But I do believe there will be FOMO next year. Or what is the opposite of FOMO? Shucks, I didn't miss out. Shomo.
I'm glad I waited.
Superfluous buying opportunities.
Shimo. That when you see the new iMac with fins and glitter ball, you're going to go, oh, crap. I love that. Yeah. What? I'll give you a couple things. Face ID, right? That's why it's not on this one. Who cares? Okay.
I mean, it's how many times do I log in on a desktop? Like once in the morning, and that's about it.
I use Windows Hello, and it's nice. I have to say, yeah.
I walk by and my watch goes, brrr, we unlocked your computer. Brrr,
I do like that. You're right. If you have an Apple Watch, you don't need anything else.
I would like it anyway, though, because I don't need the little brrr thing, because sometimes I'm just walking by.
The brrr's annoying. Calm down, and by the way, it's not just unlocking. Think of all the times you re-authenticate when you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
For purchases, yeah. Okay, that's a good point.
I'm not sure I need Face ID on my iMac, but Touch ID on my iMac I think would be well worth it.
I wonder if they'll do that.
Make the keyboard too expensive. So my understanding is that it makes the keyboard too expensive because you have to have basically an Apple Watch inside it.
Right.
And now the T2 chip is even more. The original T1 chip.
They're going to go straight to Face 2. ID. Yep.
And the T2 chip is the iPhone 7. Yeah. So and no one. I say they sold a Magic Keyboard for $300, but we complained. And I think if the iMac Magic Keyboard was like $400 just because it has a dumb display in it, and the reason it has a display is because they want to show you the actual number, and nobody can defraud you by displaying the bogus number next to the. So anyways, it's a thing.
I think they'll find enough Surface features to make you feel like, boy, I bought the Cube. I bought the last
emoji with Face ID on the iMac, Leo. That's the only thing holding it back. If it had Memoji, they would sell it.
Oh, it's true. It could have Memoji.
Yeah. But I do agree with you 100%. It's not just this. Not only am I looking for, am I anticipating a huge speed performance, but I'm also looking forward to Apple dropping its handcuffs and saying, here's the things that we can do that can be enabled by hardware and a desktop, that would just like all the stuff we're able to do just because it seemed like a good idea, or because because we're not bottlenecked by hardware constraints. If we can put everything on our own custom chip, the idea of having like even higher refresh rates, having iMacs that feel even more liquid than they do right now, that would be interesting. The idea
these will be out of the box. That's the main point. Yeah. And so you're buying something in the box right now, but because we're all in the box, we go, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
If that's how you think, buy a Windows PC because they're going to stay in the box for a long freaking time. But there's going to be a new kind of thing next year you're going to wish you had.
No, but it is fair what Lory said. Like for people who are like Alex or like me when I edit I cannot afford any problems. I cannot afford any Rev A boards. I cannot afford any software incompatibility. No fun issues to debug. And so like buying this now and holding it for because pros like they pay off their machines with gigs and with clients and stuff. So getting this now, holding it for 2 years, feeling like it's a very, very safe bet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I say something that might be somewhat shocking? Well, maybe not coming from me, but the announcement of Apple Silicon really upended my hardware buying plans for the next year. My decision had been that I've got $1,500. Close to $2,000 set aside for a brand new Mac Mini with whatever the latest thing is by the end of this year. If there's Apple Silicon, don't know what I'll do then, but it'll change that. And now I'm thinking that because the form factor that I need in a desktop Mac is traditionally a Mac Mini, we're probably not going to get that this year. We might get a 13-inch MacBook Pro this year instead. Now my thinking is, I'm broadening my thinking to, okay, well, why do you need a big desktop, a powerful desktop Mac? And it comes down to things like, again, being able to stream in high definition like this, like we're doing right now. The idea that in the next year or so, I might want to try to play with 4K video editing, Photoshop, things that are really, really high performance, Premiere, After Effects. And I'm starting to think, well, what if we took like the money that maybe half of the money, 3/4 of the money we put aside for a Mac Mini this year, we build a PC that is high performance, but that is tailored to exactly the sort of stuff that I want high performance thing to do. Make that the boring sort of like boiler in the basement that just gets the job done for high performance stuff. But then when I see a Apple Silicon Mac Mini come out next year, I will buy that for all the Mac stuff, for all the stuff that involves like me actually doing my creative work, all my writing and all my communicating and stuff like that. Or even God forbid, actually buying a MacBook Pro at the end of this year, knowing that I can still, I'll be able to split my bets amongst multiple machines. That's how revolutionary this idea is. I don't foresee a future without having Apple Silicon on my desktop. And now I'm starting to think about what is precluding me from wanting to buy a new MacBook Pro? What is precluding me from wanting to buy a Mac Mini this year or in the next like 2 quarters? And there's that's just an indication of how much this disrupts in a positive way the buying decision for people who still love Macs, who still want to continue to carry Macs through forward.